Here's the scenario. You've been injured in a serious accident. The doctor says your recovery could take months, maybe even years, yet your insurance company is denying your claim every step of the way. If something like this happens to you, call me, Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. We have offices in Toronto, London, Peterborough, and now Kitchener-Waterloo. Visit goldfingerlaw.com and get us working for you.
Get Goldfinger today.
You know what I want?
Hey, that's pretty damn good. The star gleam, the in-between of Scottie Barnes. 102-89. The Raptors defeat the Magic in what is their 5th win in a row, I believe. Pretty impressive. It's not easy to win any games in the NBA, and here they are with 5 in a row. They're now 8-2 in their last 10. They're, I guess, tied with the Chicago Bulls for the 5th seed, although they do not have the tiebreaker. I believe they'll have a chance to get the tiebreaker with Philly on next Thursday. There's a lot of things happening in the middle of the Eastern Conference, but the Raptors, because they're so damn good at this basketball, they're in the thick of it, and doing so without relying heavily on Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet, who, you know, they both did things in this game. Well, I'd say Fred had a more impressive game, for sure. Pascal, like the shooting touch, some of the in-between stuff didn't really fall, and a weird whistle, I would say. But the guy who stood out the most, Scottie Barnes. I mean, 19 points, 8 boards, 7 assists. He had 5 offensive rebounds in this game. He had 4 in the first half. He was kind of overwhelming. The Magic didn't really know how to stick on him when they put a small guy. He was too much of a threat on the offensive glass. As we saw at the end of the game, you know, Mo Bamba steps out on him and Scottie just runs straight to the rim for a thunderous dunk. And we get a lot of runouts in this game. We get a lot of opportunities for Scottie to make those open floor passing plays that he loves. And it was just super fun game that maybe got a little bit too hairy at the end because of a false sled charge. But I tell you what, Pascal Siakam is addicted to NBA minutes, and they had to figure out a way to get him over 42 without having people be upset. So they had to have it come close. These minutes, man, I guess Gary ends up playing 40, Fred 39.5. But yeah, Scottie, really, really fun game. This is, since the Lakers game, I think this is the one game where you could make the argument that he's led the team. And obviously Pascal and Fred get way more attention, but Scottie, you know, he gets to lead in his own way sometimes. And, you know, there's an argument for Fred as well. But the Raptors, in a game where everybody in the starting lineup reaches double figures, Precious Achiuwa punches up at 11 points as well. They found their way in this game. They found a really long, dominant stretch. And then, you know, when the Magic got a little bit accustomed to the way that the Raptors were running their offense without Fred in. That very strange offense that's completely dependent on Pascal Siakam breaking down guys and being able to get to the free throw line and pass guys into layups or into open shots and that kind of stuff. And the ability to, you know, get offensive rebounds. That wasn't very successful for a stretch in this game. It's the reason why I think Scottie ends up at like a plus 32. Yeah. And Pascal ends up at a plus 4. They tried to get away with Pascal plus bench. It didn't work super well. And that's, you know, that's okay. Not everything has to work in a game, especially when you win by 13. But yeah, the Raptors, it's how do you sell this game as anything other than, you know, a playground for them to try things out and for Scottie Barnes to shoot 100% from the line and to get to the middle of the floor and dunk on guys and to overwhelm and overpower smaller players, speed past bigger ones, and to combine for a really great stat line, and wherein, you know, he's in the middle of a fight, a dog fight for that Rookie of the Year trophy. And games like this are really going to help. Evan Mobley is injured right now, and that's the guy who probably has the best case outside of Barnes. Cade Cunningham is making his late charge, and, you know, his games have been really incredible lately. So if Scottie wants to come and take this thing after it seemed like Mobley for a large part of the season was being crowned as the rookie of the year, it's pretty impressive, and games like this are going to help him do it. The Magic had very few answers for where he wanted to get on the floor with or without the ball. Really cool to see. This is the thing with rookies. They oscillate between really finding their potential for short moments and then coming back down to earth and playing worse than their talent because they're getting used to the NBA, the physicality, the reads, the timing, all that kind of stuff. And Scottie has slowly accumulated a way better, read for the timing, and the physicality was never a problem for him. And so he's finding out how to insert himself in games a little bit better, especially next to OG and Siakam and Fred and guys like that. It was the case for a long time that if OG and Pascal were in the starting lineup, Scottie might have a tough time trying to find his way. In this one, he found his way. And it wasn't like he had to commandeer the offense. The guys on his team aren't afraid of him taking possessions. The guys on his team are totally happy to surrender offensive possessions to him, to screen for him, to give him opportunities to look for his offense. And in this game, it was just him flowing throughout the game, being big, making great reads, and helping the Raptors finish this one out. Not only because he had a great first half wherein he scored 15, but because he closed out the game. The Raptors, when it was kind of getting to like 9 points, getting a little bit hairy, and they needed to close this one out, what did they go to? Gary Trent Jr. ghosting a ball screen, and then Scottie getting to the free throw line because it opened up a driving lane. And then the next play, as I said before, the Magic, they switched that action above the break. Mo Bamba steps out, and Scottie's like, oh, this is the easiest bucket of my life. Sprints directly past him, and a dunk. And also there was like another really fun wrinkle of this game. So there's a play you'll probably recognize if I describe it correctly, but it's called Horns Chin Punch is what the Raptors run. And horns you're probably aware of, but if you don't know, it's two guys in the corner and two guys above the break in the free throw line, and then one guy, let's say between the logo and the guys up above the break, and it creates two horns. That's what it's supposed to be doing. And who the horns are, really, it changes depending on who's on the floor, but a lot of times it will be Fred and Scottie or Fred and OG or something like that. Or Pascal will be one of the horns as well. But Horns Chin Punch is typically a play where they run one of Pascal or Scottie on ball. The other guy's the trigger man. And they do this to try and get a switch onto a small Fred's defender by running him off of a Fred screen and getting one of them the ball in the post. So they ran Precious as one of the horns in this game and let him be the trigger man. And what we got was, he found Pascal cutting to the basket for a bucket. So yes, good pass, Precious, that kicks ass. And then we had them where they didn't get the switch that they wanted, and the Raptors flowed into a pick and roll out of horns, and then Fred found Precious for a rolling dunk. That's awesome. Finding new, younger guys to work in these set actions is a really good thing because it means you get to play around with different formations on the floor. And it means that, even if it's the same play, different guys create different permutations, and defenses have a lot of trouble with different permutations because it requires them to rely less on the film and kind of like, oh, this play creates this advantage for this person, and it makes them a little bit more reactive. And when you're reactive, you're a little bit more susceptible. This is why Draymond Green talks about being prepared for everything as a defender. And being able to change it up as Precious as the guy on ball is a pretty unique thing, and also speaks to the, how he's made progressions as a guy on ball, that he can make those reads and do the high-low pass. And then, he made the two great reads because he made the pass but then he was like, okay, we can filter into this pick and roll, and I can find the pacing on the roll and get to the rim and dunk. And he also had like a jab series, bam, bam, 2-dribble pull-up midi in this game, and a classically Precious possession because he completely bungled the timing on a roll. He had the lane. Fred was waiting for him to punch it, get to the rim because the pocket pass was there. And he was super late, and they were able to close down the lane. He didn't get to do it, but the play filtered elsewhere. Precious stayed on the weak side and ended up grabbing an offensive rebound. And you're like, oh, there he is, of course, because Precious is the guy who makes plays even when he makes mistakes. And then he goes to dribble the ball out, and he tries to just lob Chris Boucher at the rim with 3 guys in that contested airspace. And and Chris actually came down with it, but he was still swallowed up when he came down with it. So it didn't end up being anything, but it's like it's being on the precipice of genius all the time and still finding ways to be positive is like the whole Precious Achua thing, honestly. So yeah, quite a few fun developments for him in this game, fun developments for Scottie in this game. That was awesome to see. And then, the Magic scored 89 points. The Raptors, they played really great defense in this game, albeit, this is a limited Magic team. Ignas Brzdeikis was 5 of 7. He hit quite a few threes. He had some nice cuts. And Markelle Fultz found the pacing to puncture the Raptors defense over and over again. He had just a tremendous second half, and he finished with 12 points, 5 boards, 7 assists, and 2 steals. But I tell you this, a guy like Fred VanVleet in this game with 5 steals, I believe he had 5 steals last game as well. That's nuts. And he had 2 blocks, and these aren't actual blocks. These are the strip steals where a guy's going up the rim. So you could feel free to say that Fred VanVleet had 7 steals in this game. I know he would say he had 7 steals. And while he only had 3 assists and he scored 19 points on 19 shots, he took 16 3-pointers and only hit 5. Still, the overall ability to impact this game, I said Scottie was a plus 32. Fred was a plus 30. Fred's defense, just as a tag, just being that small guy, rotating into the lane, he should not be able to gum up so many possessions, and yet he does. Over and over, those hands come down quick as ever. And then also just as a guy, ball pressure. A guy has a live dribble. Fred is up into him, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if you're going to keep the ball for that much longer. I kind of want that. I'm going to take that. And yeah, hell yeah, Fred. A really, really impressive game, even if you're worried about the burst, the knee, I don't feel like this, fixes any of your worries, because Fred was a guy who was shooting at one point this year, like, 44% from the floor and 40% from 3, and was hitting like 34% on pull-ups, 50% on, like over 50% on catch and shoot threes. And that just really isn't the case right now. And also like some of the pick and roll possessions, the passing that he was able to make. He's still making passes, but it's just not the same level this year. So that's still missing, but you're still looking at a guy who just he gets into dudes defensively. He's such a smart mover. His feel, the court mapping, like always knowing where the offensive player wants the ball to go and knowing how his teammates are moving according to that. And okay, how do I disrupt this offensive play? He finds himself in the right spots all the time, or even finds himself is too passive a word. He puts himself in the right spots all the time to make these plays. And yeah, on a night where Pascal, the shot wasn't really working out that well, Gary, the same thing. And OG Anunoby was just kind of chilling in a really, really low usage spot, but just, OG was great in this game. He was good defensively, maybe even great defensively, I should say. And he was low usage. He just hit his shots. When he got a closeout, he got into the teeth of the defense. He made good plays. He was close to making some really good plays. Like the one that he had, this hop step into the lane after it looked like he got fouled on a closeout. Boom. Takes a big, chest to the shoulder, clears into the paint, hop step over a dude, little shovel pass, and it went off. I believe it was Kem's hand and out of bounds, but it was so close to being like a perfect possession as far as what you'd want out of OG. But later in the game, you get this possession where he's on the baseline and he gets the closeout. He drives baseline because that's what they give him. And the guy, the low man, who I believe it was Mo Wagner at that point in time, he comes over and he's like, okay, I have him closed off baseline, but OG turns him into a turnstile anyway and just kind of blows him up. And you can close off baseline all you want, but if you're not as strong as the guy coming baseline and you're not in position to take a charge, you haven't closed off the baseline. And OG is one of those guys who you got to make sure you close off baseline or you're going to take a charge or something like that, because, he'll flip you. You'll turn, 90 degrees. You'll flip flop, dude, if he puts his shoulder down. And yeah, some plays like that, a little bit of 3-point shooting as well. The Raptors just in a really good groove in this game. Kem, Thad, very low usage, but kind of doing their thing. They both were part of that less than desirable run with Pascal, but them's the breaks. Overall, just a really fun game where Scottie really got to shine offensively, I think. Fred just doing these classically Fred things. We got, even though Pascal struggled to get his shot, like the touch to come in, he's making, still providing a bunch of stuff defensively. He had a couple highlight plays. It's just like, this is a really good team, and they've turned the corner. 5 wins in a row. They've done this before the season. They're now fully healthy, even though guys are still dealing with stuff, obviously, but they're finding cohesion on both sides of the floor. Their ceiling is dependent absolutely on Fred being able to, return to a former form of himself, and Pascal being able to carry in the moments when Fred isn't there. He's been doing a pretty damn good job of it so far. And in a game like this, it makes you feel good that everybody kind of picked up the slack, and everybody was more or less egalitarian as the ball filled into the guys who had mismatches and stuff like that. And so you have 6 different guys who finish with, Precious 11, OG 14, Scottie 19, Fred 19, Gary 17, Pascal 16, and Pascal topping everybody on the glass, grabbing 11 boards, and just closing out those defensive possessions. He had double-digit defensive rebounds. So a real team effort, topped off by a fairly important and impressive Scottie Barnes performance, because he's trying to get that award, dude. It's it would be cool if he got it. Reggie Evans Award. Let's do Fred. I mean, you get 7 steals. You're hustling, you're bustling, especially you got short legs, dude. He doesn't really transport himself around the court with ease as, maybe Scottie or Pascal might do. And I think it's really fun to see a guy work like that. Top quick reaction comment is from Chilango. Quote, 5 steals and 2 block shots from Fred. The little guy really gets after it, end quote. I mean, hey, you just picked the Reggie Evans Award winner. That's right. He does get after it, dude. I'm glad you noticed it as well. 5 wins in a row, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed the reaction podcast. I hope that this was a good enough retelling of the game for those of you who come to this for this. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to the Kyle Lowry return, even though he won't be playing. He's in the building. I think that's going to be super fun. And so look forward to talking to you after that game Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. But they got into it in the morning or at night. Have a blessed day, and goodbye.